Did you know that in Detective Comics number 27 from May 1939, Batman made his very first appearance, created by artist Bob Kane and writer Bill Finger? The character was initially conceived as a darker alternative to Superman, drawing inspiration from pulp fiction heroes like The Shadow and Zorro. What's fascinating is that Batman originally used firearms in those early Golden Age stories, a detail that surprises many fans today. It wasn't until the 1940s that he adopted his famous no-kill code and stopped using guns altogether. In Batman, the Animated Series. From 1992, Tim Curry was actually the first actor cast as the Joker, but he had to leave after recording 4 episodes due to developing bronchitis. Mark Hamill, who had already been cast to voice a minor character in the show, stepped in to replace him, and his portrayal became the definitive voice of the Joker for an entire generation. Interestingly, the original audio recordings of Tim Curry's Joker were finally released to the public in 2022, 30 years after they were made. In the Batman Arkham Asylum video game from 2009, the developers at Rocksteady Studios included a clever fake crash sequence where Scarecrow's fear toxin makes the screen go black and display an error message, making players believe their console had actually crashed. This innovative fourth-wall-breaking moment won the game numerous awards and helped it achieve a Guinness World Record for most critically acclaimed superhero game ever, with an average critic score of 91.67%. In Detective Comics number 48 from February 1941, the term Batmobile was first used, though Batman's vehicle had appeared in earlier issues as a simple red convertible. The iconic car has undergone countless transformations over the decades, with each era bringing new designs and capabilities. The 1966 television Batmobile, based on a 1955 Lincoln Futura concept car, was later sold at auction in 2013 for an astounding $4.2 million, making it one of the most valuable movie cars ever sold. In Batman number 16 from 1943, Alfred Pennyworth was first introduced to the comics, though he initially appeared as a bumbling detective character named Alfred Beagle. His name was later changed to Pennyworth, and his character evolved into the refined, capable butler we know today. What many fans don't realize is that Alfred originally had no knowledge of Bruce Wayne's secret identity when he first arrived at Wayne Manor, only discovering it after observing Bruce's suspicious behavior. In the 1992 animated series Batman, the Animated Series, the production team made the unusual decision to draw all backgrounds on black paper instead of the traditional white paper used in animation. This technique, which they called Dark Deco, created the show's distinctive noir atmosphere and gothic aesthetic. The series won 4 Emmy Awards and is still considered by many to be the definitive adaptation of Batman outside the comics. In Batman number 426 through 429 from 1988, the storyline A Death in the Family shocked readers when Jason Todd, the second Robin, was brutally murdered by the Joker. What made this event truly unprecedented was that DC Comics allowed readers to vote on Jason's fate through a 900-number telephone poll. The vote was incredibly close, with 5,343 people voting for his death and 5,271 voting for his survival, making it one of the most interactive storytelling events in comic book history. In Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy, Christian Bale performed his own stunts for many sequences, including the dangerous scene where Batman stands atop a skyscraper in Hong Kong. The films were shot primarily in Chicago, which served as the primary filming location for Gotham City. Interestingly, Heath Ledger isolated himself in a hotel room for a month to develop his portrayal of the Joker, keeping a diary written in the Joker's voice to understand the character's psychology. In Batman: Arkham Knight. From 2015, players could finally drive the Batmobile for the first time in the Arkham series. The game introduced a battle mode feature that allowed the vehicle to transform into a tank-like configuration. However, this addition received mixed reactions from fans, with some feeling the tank sections were overused. Despite the controversy, the game sold over 5 million copies within its first few months and became the fastest-selling game in the Arkham series. In Detective Comics number 31 from September 1939, the Batarang made its first appearance as Batman's signature throwing weapon. Initially designed as a simple boomerang, it has evolved over the decades to include explosive variants, electrified versions, and remote-controlled models. The weapon's design and functionality have varied significantly across different media, from the campy bat-shaped versions in the 1960s television series to the more realistic tactical designs in modern films. In the 1966 Batman television series starring Adam West, Burgess Meredith's portrayal of the Penguin included several improvisations born out of necessity. Meredith hadn't smoked in 20 years, but the cigarettes required for the character irritated his throat so badly that he developed the Penguin's distinctive squawking laugh as a result. His signature waddling walk wasn't a creative choice either. It came from the discomfort of wearing a tight rubber fat suit during filming. In Batman, the animated series, voice actors performed their roles together in one room, rather than recording separately, which was unusual for animated productions. This ensemble recording method created more authentic character interactions and chemistry. Mark Hamill was even allowed to stand while performing the Joker's lines, as he found it helped him capture the character's manic energy more effectively. In the 2022 film The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson's audition for the role occurred while he was working on Christopher Nolan's Tenet. Pattinson lied to Nolan about where he was going, but Nolan quickly deduced the truth. The Riddler character in this film was partially based on the real-life Zodiac killer, incorporating elements like cryptographic ciphers and a leather suit similar to the one worn by the infamous serial killer. In Batman number 608 from 2002, the storyline introduced Hush, a new villain who turned out to be Thomas Elliot, a childhood friend of Bruce Wayne. What made Hush particularly interesting was his extensive knowledge of Batman's identity and his personal vendetta against Bruce Wayne specifically. The character was created by writer Jeff Loeb and artist Jim Lee, and the 12-issue storyline became one of the best-selling Batman arcs of the early 2000s. In the Batman Arkham series, Kevin Conroy reprised his iconic role as the voice of Batman, a character he had voiced since 1992. Conroy developed a unique technique of using distinctly different voices for Bruce Wayne's public persona versus Batman's intimidating growl, a method that influenced many subsequent portrayals of the character. Conroy would go on to voice Batman in over 40 different productions before his passing in 2022. In Batman Returns from 1992, real penguins were used for many scenes, and the production spent approximately $1 million on their care and training. Michelle Pfeiffer performed many of her own stunts as Catwoman, including a sequence where she put a live bird in her mouth. The film's darker tone and sexual content led to complaints from parents and McDonald's, which had partnered with Warner Bros. For a Happy Meal promotion, but later distanced themselves from the film. In Batman, Nightfall from 1993, the villain Bane became one of the few antagonists to truly defeat Batman in a fair fight. After systematically wearing Batman down by releasing all the inmates from Arkham Asylum, Bane tracked Batman to the Batcave and broke his back in an iconic scene that would be referenced in countless future adaptations. This led to Jean-Paul Valley, also known as Azrael, temporarily taking over as Batman, creating a darker and more violent version of the character. In the 1960s Batman television series, the Batphone was red and appeared in every single episode, becoming an iconic prop. Robin uttered his famous catchphrase starting with "Holy" a total of 357 times throughout the series, with variations including "Holy Heartbreak," "Holy Hamburger," and "Holy Haberdashery." The show's campy style was initially planned to be more serious, but executive producer William Dozier decided to embrace a comedic tone that defined the series. In Detective Comics number 29 from July 1939, Batman's utility belt made its first appearance, though it would take decades before it became the sophisticated piece of equipment fans recognize today. The belt houses over 100 different gadgets, including gas pellets, smoke bombs, a grappling gun, batarangs, and forensic analysis tools. The concept of the utility belt was inspired by the equipment belts worn by construction workers and military personnel. In Batman, Mask of the Phantasm. From 1993, the animated film was produced as a theatrical release, but received a limited marketing campaign, resulting in disappointing box office returns. Despite this, it has since been recognized as one of the best Batman films ever made, with critics praising its mature storytelling and emotional depth. The film introduced Andrea Beaumont, a love interest from Bruce Wayne's past, who becomes the vigilante known as the Phantasm. In Batman comics, Bruce Wayne's net worth has been estimated at over $9 billion, with Wayne Enterprises valued at more than $30 billion. This immense wealth funds his crime-fighting activities, including the development of advanced technology, vehicles, and equipment. The company has various divisions, including aerospace, technology, pharmaceuticals, and defense, making it one of the most powerful corporations in the DC universe. In the 1989 Batman film, Jack Nicholson's contract as the Joker included a percentage of the film's gross earnings rather than a flat fee. This deal ultimately earned him approximately $60 million, equivalent to about $157 million in today's currency. Nicholson also negotiated for a later call time on set because he preferred staying up late, and he would often sign and give away his Joker gloves as gifts, much to the frustration of the costume department. In Batman, the animated series, Harvey Dent's character appeared in multiple episodes before his transformation into Two-Face, allowing the audience to build an emotional connection with him before his tragic fall. This approach made his eventual transformation more impactful and demonstrated the show's commitment to character development. The series also aged up Dick Grayson's Robin character due to censorship rules that prohibited depicting children in dangerous situations. In Detective Comics number 38 from April 1940, Dick Grayson made his first appearance as Robin, the Boy Wonder. His creation nearly doubled Batman comic sales, proving that the addition of a sidekick could make the character more appealing to younger readers. Robin was inspired by Robin Hood and various literary sidekick characters, designed to give Batman someone to talk to and explain his detective work to readers. In Batman Beyond, the animated series set in the future of the DC animated universe, an elderly Bruce Wayne mentors teenager Terry McGinnis, who takes on the mantle of Batman in the year 2039. The show ran from 1999 to 2001 and featured a high-tech flying bat suit and a cyberpunk aesthetic. Interestingly, the series' concept was initially developed to create a younger Batman that would appeal to the Kids WB Network's target demographic. In The Dark Knight Rises from 2012, the climactic fight between Batman and Bane was filmed at the Los Angeles Convention Center, with over 1,000 extras participating in the scene. The film's opening sequence, featuring Bane's airplane hijacking, was shot practically with real planes and stunt performers, creating one of the most impressive action sequences in the trilogy. Anne Hathaway trained extensively for 6 months to portray Catwoman, performing many of her own stunts. In Batman Arkham City from 2011, the open-world section of Gotham includes 243 Riddler challenges scattered throughout the environment, making it one of the most extensive collectible systems in any Batman game. The game achieved an average critic score of 95.94, surpassing even Arkham Asylum's record and making it one of the highest-rated superhero games ever created. Players could explore as both Batman and Catwoman, with Catwoman's segments integrated seamlessly into the main narrative. In Batman comics, the character has been depicted as a master of 127 different martial arts styles, including boxing, judo, karate, kung fu, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. His combat training began at age 14 when he embarked on a global journey to learn from the world's greatest fighters and detectives. This extensive training, combined with his peak physical conditioning and strategic mind, makes him one of the most formidable hand-to-hand combatants in the DC universe. In the 1966 Batman film, Adam West insisted on having more screen time as Bruce Wayne, emphasizing the importance of the character's dual identity. The film featured 4 of Batman's most iconic villains, the Joker, the Riddler, the Penguin, and Catwoman, all working together in an unprecedented team-up. The movie's production recycled sets from the science fiction series Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea for the Penguin's submarine sequences, demonstrating the creative resourcefulness of 1960s television production. In Batman, The Long Halloween, a 13-issue limited series published from 1996 to 1997, writer Jeff Loeb and artist Tim Sale crafted a noir-inspired mystery that has influenced numerous Batman adaptations. The story follows Batman's investigation of a serial killer known as Holiday, who murders members of Gotham's crime families on holidays throughout the year. The series explores the relationship between Batman, Commissioner Gordon, and District Attorney Harvey Dent, before Dent's transformation into Two-Face. In Batman Arkham Origins from 2013, the game serves as a prequel to the main Arkham series, depicting Batman during his early years as a crime fighter on Christmas Eve. The story features 8 assassins, including Bane, Deathstroke, and Deadshot, all hired to kill Batman for a $50 million bounty. Troy Baker provided the voice for the Joker in this installment. following in the footsteps of Mark Hamill's iconic portrayal. In Batman comics from the 1950s and 1960s, during what's known as the Silver Age, the stories took on a more science fiction-oriented approach, featuring aliens, time travel, and dimension-hopping adventures. This era introduced characters like Bat-Mite, a magical imp from another dimension who idolized Batman, and Mr. Mxyzptlk's counterpart in Batman's Rogues Gallery. These lighter stories were eventually phased out in favor of a return to Batman's darker, detective-focused roots in the 1970s. In the Batman Noel graphic novel from 2011, writer and artist Lee Bermejo reimagined Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol with Batman in the role of Scrooge. The story presents Batman confronting his own methods and philosophy through encounters that mirror the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. The book's painted artwork and mature themes made it a critical success and demonstrated how classic literature could be adapted into the Batman mythos. In Detective Comics number 233 from July 1956, Batwoman made her first appearance as Kathy Kane, a wealthy heiress who became inspired by Batman to fight crime. She was created partly in response to psychologist Frederick Wertham's suggestion in his book Seduction of the Innocent, that Batman and Robin's relationship had homosexual undertones. Batwoman was designed to provide Batman with a female love interest, though the character would go through various iterations and reboots over the decades. In Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller's groundbreaking 1986 limited series, an aged Bruce Wayne comes out of retirement to save Gotham City one last time. The story depicts a brutal, dystopian future where superheroes have been outlawed and Superman works for the government. This seminal work redefined Batman as a grim, uncompromising figure and influenced virtually every Batman adaptation that followed, from Tim Burton's films to Christopher Nolan's trilogy. In the Batman Arkham Knight video game, director Sefton Hill made a cameo appearance as a character model, demonstrating the team's attention to detail and personal investment in the project. The game's release date was chosen to coincide with the anniversary of Tim Burton's 1989 Batman film, paying homage to the movie that helped establish Batman's modern, dark, and gothic aesthetic. The PC version of the game faced significant technical problems at launch, leading Warner Bros. To temporarily remove it from sale to address performance issues. In Batman Year One, the 1987 storyline by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli, readers see Bruce Wayne's first year as Batman and Jim Gordon's arrival in Gotham as a police lieutenant. The story depicts Batman as vulnerable and inexperienced, making mistakes and learning from them as he develops his crime-fighting methods. This grounded approach to Batman's origin influenced Batman Begins and established many elements that would become standard in subsequent Batman stories. In the Gotham television series that ran from 2014 to 2019, the show explored the city's descent into chaos before Batman's emergence, focusing on a young James Gordon and the origins of various villains. The final season adapted elements of the No Man's Land storyline, depicting Gotham cut off from the mainland and divided into gang territories. The series finale featured a time jump showing Bruce Wayne as Batman, bringing the show full circle. In Batman White Knight, a 2017 limited series by Sean Murphy, the Joker is apparently cured of his insanity and becomes Jack Napier, a rational man who seeks to reform Gotham's corrupt systems and expose Batman as a dangerous vigilante. This role reversal explores the question of whether Batman's methods actually help or harm Gotham City, presenting a complex moral dilemma. The series spawned several sequels exploring alternate takes on the Batman mythos. In Detective Comics number 359 from January 1967, Batgirl made her modern debut as Barbara Gordon, Commissioner Gordon's daughter, who independently becomes a costumed crime fighter. The character was created at the request of the producers of the 1966 Batman television series, who wanted a female character to attract more viewers. Yvonne Craig portrayed Batgirl in the show's third season, and the character quickly became popular in both television and comics. In Batman: The Killing Joke, Alan Moore and Brian Bolland's 1988 graphic novel, the Joker shoots and paralyzes Barbara Gordon in an attempt to prove that anyone can be driven insane by one bad day. The story also provides a possible origin for the Joker as a failed comedian who turns to crime to support his pregnant wife, though the Joker himself admits he prefers his past to be multiple choice. The graphic novel has been both praised for its psychological depth and criticized for its treatment of Barbara Gordon. In Batman: Hush, the 2002 storyline introduced a new villain, who proved to be remarkably dangerous due to his intimate knowledge of Bruce Wayne's life and psychology. Thomas Elliot, Bruce's childhood friend, became Hush after harboring a lifelong resentment over his failed attempt to murder his parents for their inheritance. A plan foiled when Thomas Wayne saved his mother's life. The storyline featured virtually every major character in Batman's world and became a massive commercial success. In the Batman, the Brave and the Bold animated series that ran from 2008 to 2011, the show took a lighter, more adventurous approach to the character, featuring team-ups with various DC heroes in each episode. Diedrich Bader voiced Batman with a more straightforward, heroic tone, contrasting with the darker interpretations in other media. The series paid homage to the Silver Age of comics while incorporating modern storytelling sensibilities. In Batman: The Court of Owls, a 2011 storyline by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, Batman discovers a secret society called the Court of Owls that has controlled Gotham City for centuries. The court employs nearly unkillable assassins called Talons, and the revelation that such a powerful organization existed without Batman's knowledge shakes his understanding of his city. This storyline was the first major arc of DC's New 52 reboot and set a new standard for Batman comics. In Batman: Arkham Asylum, the video game's atmosphere was enhanced by having Batman and the Joker's confrontations take place in the iconic Gothic Asylum. The game introduced the free-flow combat system, which allowed players to chain together attacks and counters in fluid combinations that made them feel like Batman in combat. This combat system became so popular that it was copied by numerous other action games and became known in the industry as Arkham-style combat. In Batman, the animated series, the episode Heart of Ice completely reimagined Mr. Freeze from a generic ice-themed villain into a tragic figure desperately trying to save his terminally ill wife, Nora. This new origin story, written by Paul Dini, was so well received that it was adopted into the comic book continuity and influenced all subsequent portrayals of the character. The episode won the show an Emmy Award for Outstanding Writing in an Animated Program. In Detective Comics number 27, Batman's first appearance established several core elements of the character that remain to this day, including his detective skills, his use of fear as a weapon, and his commitment to justice. The story was only 6 pages long and featured Batman investigating a murder case. Bob Kane's original Batman design included purple gloves and a stiff cape. But Bill Finger suggested key changes like the dark blue and gray color scheme, the scalloped cape, and the removal of the red sections from the original costume. In Batman Zero Year, a 2013 storyline by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, the new 52 continuity presented a fresh take on Batman's origin that updated Year One for modern audiences. The story showed Bruce Wayne's return to Gotham and his battles against the Red Hood gang before becoming Batman, as well as his early encounters with the Riddler. The arc introduced new elements to Batman's mythology while respecting the core aspects established in previous origin stories. In the Lego Batman movie from 2017, the film parodied Batman's tendency to work alone and his difficulty forming emotional connections. Will Arnett voiced Batman in an over-the-top performance that lovingly mocked the character's darker portrayals while celebrating his heroism. The movie featured appearances from virtually every Batman villain ever created, as well as crossover villains from other franchises, taking full advantage of LEGO's diverse licensing agreements. In Batman: The Enemy Within, the 2017 Telltale Games series, players made choices that determined whether John Doe, the man who would become the Joker, became a vigilante or a villain. This innovative approach to the Joker's origin gave players agency in shaping one of Batman's most iconic relationships. The game's narrative branched significantly based on player decisions, offering multiple endings and interpretations of familiar characters. In Batman and Robin, #1 from 2009, Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely introduced Damian Wayne as the new Robin, partnering him with Dick Grayson, who had temporarily taken over as Batman while Bruce Wayne was believed dead. The dynamic between the optimistic Dick Grayson Batman and the violent, aggressive Damian Wayne Robin created fresh tensions and character development opportunities. This series explored how Batman's legacy could be carried on by others. In Batman, the movie from 1966, the film famously featured a scene where Batman struggles to dispose of a bomb while being hindered by a baby stroller, a band of nuns, and a pair of ducks, all of which keep appearing in his path. This absurdist sequence perfectly encapsulated the camp humor that defined the 1960s Batman era. The film also featured the Batboat, Batcopter, and other ridiculous vehicles that were nevertheless beloved by audiences. In Batman Black Mirror, a 2010 storyline by Scott Snyder and Jock, Dick Grayson serves as Batman, while Bruce Wayne is believed dead, facing off against a series of dark and disturbing cases. The story's villain, James Gordon Jr., is revealed to be Commissioner Gordon's psychopathic son, creating a deeply personal conflict for Gordon. This critically acclaimed run demonstrated that someone other than Bruce Wayne could successfully carry the Batman mantle. In Batman Under the Red Hood, the 2010 animated film adapted the storyline of Jason Todd's return as the Red Hood, a violent vigilante who challenges Batman's no-kill rule. The film featured Jensen Ackles as the voice of Red Hood and explored the emotional consequences of Batman's greatest failure, his inability to save Jason from the Joker. The story forced Batman to confront whether his moral code actually serves justice or simply perpetuates an endless cycle of violence. In Batman, The Dark Knight trilogy, Christopher Nolan grounded the character in a more realistic setting, eliminating fantastical elements in favor of plausible technology and psychology. The films explored themes of fear, chaos, pain, and hope through Batman's battles with the Scarecrow, the Joker, and Bane. Each film examined different aspects of what it means to be a symbol rather than just a man, with Bruce Wayne ultimately accepting that Batman must be an idea that transcends any one person. In Batman, Gothic, a 1990 storyline by Grant Morrison and Klaus Janson, Batman investigates a series of murders connected to his childhood and discovers that the killer is an immortal man who made a deal with the devil. The story blended horror elements with Batman's detective work, creating a dark and atmospheric tale. Morrison would later return to write several more influential Batman stories, including the epic multi-year saga that included Batman and Son, Batman R.I.P., and Batman Incorporated. In Batman, No Man's Land, the massive 1999 crossover event depicted Gotham City after a catastrophic earthquake, with the U.S. government declaring it a federal disaster zone and cutting it off from the rest of the country. The city devolved into gang territories controlled by various villains, with Batman and his allies working to reclaim it section by section. The year-long storyline introduced Cassandra Cain as the new Batgirl and featured the canonical debut of Harley Quinn in DC Comics. In Batman, the Telltale series. From 2016, the episodic adventure game presented an original story where players made choices that affected the narrative, including major revelations about the Wayne family's history. The game suggested that Thomas and Martha Wayne were involved in criminal activities, challenging Bruce Wayne's idealized memories of his parents. This bold reimagining demonstrated how interactive media could offer new perspectives on established Batman lore. In Batman, Gotham by Gaslight, the 1989 Elseworlds story by Brian Augustin and Mike Mignola, Batman exists in Victorian-era Gotham and hunts Jack the Ripper. This was the first official Elseworlds tale, establishing a format for alternate universe Batman stories. The steampunk aesthetic and period setting created a distinctive atmosphere, and the story was adapted into an animated film in 2018, proving the concept's enduring appeal. In Batman Strange Apparitions, a storyline from Detective Comics in 1977 through 1978, by Steve Englehart and Marshall Rogers, the creative team revitalized Batman for the Bronze Age with sophisticated storytelling and dynamic artwork. The story arc reintroduced classic villains like Hugo Strange, who discovered Batman's secret identity, and featured Batman's romance with Silver St. Cloud. This run influenced both Tim Burton's Batman films and Batman, the animated series. In Batman, The Man Who Laughs, Ed Brubaker and Doug Mahnke's 2005 graphic novel, the story retold the Joker's first appearance in a modern context, depicting the beginning of Batman and the Joker's eternal conflict. The narrative drew inspiration from the original 1940s Joker story while incorporating elements from The Killing Joke, creating a definitive origin for their rivalry. The title referenced the 1928 silent film that inspired the Joker's appearance. In Batman, Earth One, a 2012 graphic novel by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, the story presented an alternate universe where Bruce Wayne is younger and more inexperienced when he begins his crime-fighting career. Alfred Pennyworth is reimagined as a former Royal Marine with combat training who actively participates in Batman's missions rather than simply providing support. This fresh take on Batman's origin explored what the character might be like without decades of established continuity. In Batman, Ego, and Other Tales, a 2000 graphic novel by Darwin Cook, the story presented Batman having a psychological conversation with his Bruce Wayne persona, questioning whether Batman is helping Gotham or simply indulging in his own need for violence. The story examined the psychological toll of being Batman, and the question of whether Bruce Wayne is the mask or if Batman is the true identity. Cook's artistic style and storytelling made this introspective tale a standout among Batman's psychological explorations. In Batman, The Doom That Came to Gotham, a 2000 Elseworlds miniseries by Mike Mignola, Batman exists in a 1920s setting and faces Lovecraftian cosmic horrors. The story blended Batman with H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, creating a dark and atmospheric tale that showcased how adaptable Batman's core concept could be. Various Batman characters were reimagined through this horror lens, including Ra's al Ghul as an ancient evil and Poison Ivy as a plant-based horror. In Batman, the animated series, the show never displayed its title on screen, relying on Batman's instant recognizability to convey what viewers were watching. The series' opening sequence was created by reusing animation from the pilot episode On Leather Wings, which was originally made as a silent short film to pitch the series' concept. This economical approach to production became one of the most iconic opening sequences in television animation. In Batman Detective Comics number 1000 from 2019, DC Comics celebrated Batman's 80th anniversary with a special anthology issue featuring stories by numerous legendary creators. The issue included contributions from writers and artists who had shaped Batman over the decades, each presenting their unique take on the character. The publication demonstrated Batman's enduring cultural impact and his evolution as a character across 8 decades of storytelling. In Batman, Three Jokers, a 2020 limited series by Jeff Johns and Jason Fabok, the story revealed that there were actually 3 different people who had served as the Joker over the years. This revelation attempted to explain the Joker's varying personalities and motivations across different stories, from the goofy prankster to the homicidal maniac. The series focused on Batman, Batgirl, and Red Hood confronting their trauma related to the Joker while investigating this mystery. In Batman, Son of the Demon, a 1987 graphic novel by Mike W. Barr and Jerry Bingham, Batman and Talia al Ghul's romantic relationship resulted in the birth of a son, though Batman believed the child had died. This story was later revealed to be the origin of Damian Wayne, who would eventually become Robin. The graphic novel demonstrated how even non-canonical stories could later be integrated into main continuity when creators found compelling ways to use their concepts. In Batman, The Dark Knight Strikes Again, Frank Miller's 2001 sequel to The Dark Knight Returns, the story presented a more extreme and polarizing vision of Batman's future. The series featured Batman leading a rebellion against a totalitarian government with the help of various superheroes. While more controversial than its predecessor, the series continued Miller's exploration of Batman as a revolutionary figure challenging corrupt authority. In Batman, Whatever Happened to the Caped Crusader, a 2-part story by Neil Gaiman and Andy Kubert, the narrative presented a meditation on Batman's death and legacy through various contradictory eulogies. Different characters tell different versions of how Batman died, with none of them quite agreeing on the facts. This metafictional approach explored how Batman's story has been told and retold across decades, with each interpretation valid in its own way. In Batman, The Widening Gyre, a 2009 limited series by Kevin Smith and Walt Flanagan, the story introduced a new hero named Baphomet, who helps Batman fight crime, but is later revealed to be a villain plotting against him. The series controversially depicted Batman confiding in Baphomet about a humiliating moment from his early crime-fighting days. While divisive among fans, the series demonstrated how Batman stories could explore the character's vulnerabilities and trust issues. In Batman, The Return of Bruce Wayne, a 2010 limited series by Grant Morrison and various artists, the story followed Bruce Wayne traveling through different time periods, trying to return to the present day after being sent back in time. Each issue presented Batman in a different era: prehistoric times, Puritan Gotham, the age of piracy, the Old West, and noir-era Gotham, showcasing how the Batman archetype could work in any setting. The series concluded Morrison's epic Batman saga that had begun years earlier in Batman Noel. Lee Bermejo's 2011 graphic novel reimagined A Christmas Carol with Batman in the role of Scrooge, examining his increasingly cold and uncompromising approach to justice. The story featured the Joker as the ghost of Christmas future, showing Batman a dark potential outcome of his crusade. Bermejo's painted artwork created a moody, atmospheric tale that balanced action with introspection, making it a holiday favorite among Batman fans. In Batman, Death of the Family, Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's 2012 storyline, the Joker returned after a year-long absence and targeted the entire Bat family. The story played with the idea that the Joker had discovered the secret identities of all Batman's allies and planned to eliminate them to have Batman all to himself. The arc created intense paranoia and fear, living up to the Joker's reputation as Batman's most dangerous enemy. In Batman Endgame, the 2014 conclusion to Snyder and Capullo's initial Batman run, the story presented what appeared to be Batman and the Joker's final confrontation. The Joker unleashed a toxin that turned Gotham's population into laughing maniacs, while also revealing that he might be immortal and has haunted Gotham for centuries. The storyline ended with Batman and the Joker apparently dying together in a cave collapse, though both would eventually return. In Batman Super Heavy, the 2015 storyline showed Jim Gordon operating as Batman in a mechanical suit after Bruce Wayne lost his memories. This arc explored what it would be like for someone without Bruce Wayne's resources or training to become Batman, with Gordon struggling to live up to the legend while dealing with public skepticism. The story questioned whether Batman needed to be Bruce Wayne or if the symbol could transcend any one person. In Batman, The War of Jokes and Riddles, part of Tom King's 2017 Batman run, the story revealed a past conflict between the Joker and the Riddler that forced Batman to make an impossible choice. The war divided Gotham's villains into two armies, with Batman caught in the middle, trying to minimize casualties. The arc explored the question of whether Batman's refusal to kill actually leads to more death and suffering. In Batman City of Bane, the 2019 conclusion to Tom King's Batman run, Bane took over Gotham City and psychologically tormented Batman by creating a twisted version of the life he could never have. The story forced Bruce Wayne to confront his childhood trauma,
Hmm.
and the question of whether he could ever find happiness, or if Batman was his only possible identity. The arc featured numerous callbacks to King's entire run, while bringing its themes to a climax. In Batman, The Imposter, a 2021 limited series by Mattson Tomlin and Andrea Sorrentino, the story presented a noir-inspired tale where someone is committing murders while dressed as Batman. Bruce Wayne must prove his innocence while also questioning whether his actions as Batman have inspired others to violence. The series explored Batman's early years with a focus on psychological realism and the consequences of vigilantism. In Batman, One Dark Night, a 2022 graphic novel by Jock, the story unfolds over a single night as Batman must transport the Joker across Gotham during a massive blackout while various villains hunt them. The minimalist plot showcased Jock's atmospheric artwork and created a tense thriller that demonstrated how much storytelling could be accomplished with a simple premise. The book emphasized Batman's tactical thinking and physical endurance. Throughout all these iterations across comics, films, television shows, and video games, Batman has remained one of the most popular and enduring superheroes ever created, with each generation finding new ways to interpret the Dark Knight for their time while maintaining the core elements that make the character compelling. A human being using intelligence, training, and technology to fight injustice in a corrupt world, driven by childhood trauma to ensure no one else suffers as he did, yet always struggling with the question of whether his methods truly serve justice or simply perpetuate an endless cycle of violence and vengeance in the city he has sworn to protect. In Batman, the animated series, the character of Harley Quinn was created specifically for the episode Joker's Favor, voiced by Arlene Sorkin. The character proved so popular that she was later integrated into DC Comics continuity and became one of the most recognizable characters in the Batman universe. Sorkin's performance was inspired by a dream sequence she had performed in the soap opera Days of Our Lives, where she dressed as a court jester. The creators saw this performance and decided it would be perfect for the Joker's girlfriend. In Batman comics, the city of Gotham is canonically located in New Jersey, according to the 1977 Amazing World of DC Comics issue, which explicitly mapped Gotham's position south of New York City and across the Delaware Bay from Metropolis. The city's name itself derives from an Old English term meaning Village of Fools, which Washington Irving popularized as a nickname for New York City. This influenced the choice of name for Batman's city, symbolizing a place that appears foolish but contains hidden depths. In Batman Arkham VR from 2016, the virtual reality game allowed players to experience being Batman in first-person perspective for the first time. The game focused on detective work and puzzle solving rather than combat, with players able to examine crime scenes and use Batman's gadgets in an immersive environment. Though the experience lasted only about 90 minutes, it demonstrated the potential for VR technology in superhero gaming and featured the return of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill voicing Batman and the Joker. In the 1989 Batman film, Prince was commissioned to create songs for the soundtrack, resulting in the album Batman, which became a commercial success. However, director Tim Burton later expressed regret about this decision, feeling that Prince's music didn't fit the film's gothic aesthetic as well as Danny Elfman's orchestral score. The soundtrack controversy highlighted the tension between artistic vision and commercial considerations in blockbuster filmmaking. In Batman comics, Ra's al Ghul deduced Batman's secret identity through careful analysis of the equipment and technology Batman used, tracing purchases back to Wayne Enterprises. What makes Ra's particularly interesting is that he knows Batman's identity but chooses not to share this information widely, instead using it to craft personal attacks and recruitment attempts. Ra's views Batman as a potential heir and has offered him leadership of the League of Assassins on multiple occasions. In Batman, the Brave and the Bold animated series, Batman teamed up with different heroes in each episode, ranging from mainstream characters like Superman and Wonder Woman to obscure heroes like B'wana Beast and Detective Chimp. The show embraced the fun, adventurous aspects of superhero storytelling that had been somewhat eclipsed by darker interpretations. Music became a recurring element, with several episodes featuring full musical numbers, including an opening theme song performed by different heroes each week. In Detective Comics number 37 from March 1940, Batman first used infrared goggles for detective work, enabling night vision and magnification capabilities. This relatively simple gadget would evolve over decades into the sophisticated cowl-integrated vision systems seen in modern adaptations. The goggles represented Batman's reliance on technology to enhance his natural abilities rather than possessing superhuman powers, like many of his Justice League teammates. In Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller depicted Superman as a government operative who reluctantly follows orders, setting up the climactic confrontation between Batman and Superman. This portrayal influenced the characterization of both heroes in future works and introduced the idea that Batman could potentially defeat Superman with preparation and kryptonite. The fight scene in the rain became one of the most iconic moments in comic book history. In Batman, the animated series episode Almost Got Him, several of Batman's villains sit around playing poker while recounting their closest brushes with killing Batman. The episode cleverly reveals, at the end, that one of the players is actually Batman in disguise, having infiltrated the gathering to rescue Commissioner Gordon. The episode is frequently cited as one of the series' best, showcasing the writer's ability to tell a compelling story from the villain's perspective. In Batman comics, the Riddler discovered Batman's secret identity during a near-death experience, but found the knowledge useless when Batman pointed out that a solved riddle loses its value. This revelation caused the Riddler to suffer a mental breakdown, as his entire motivation revolved around creating puzzles that challenged Batman's intellect. The psychological complexity of this moment demonstrated how Batman understands his enemies' minds well enough to use their obsessions against them. In Batman Year 2, a 1987 storyline, Batman briefly considered using a gun after the Reaper, a violent vigilante, proved more effective at reducing crime through lethal methods. This controversial arc examined Batman's no-kill rule and questioned whether his moral code actually served the greater good. The story was later largely ignored in continuity due to its controversial nature, but it represented an important exploration of Batman's ethical boundaries. In the 2005 film Batman Begins, Christian Bale performed many of his own stunts, including the scene where Batman stands atop a Gotham skyscraper. The film was shot in multiple locations, with Chicago serving as the primary stand-in for Gotham City. Director Christopher Nolan chose to use practical effects wherever possible, including actually flipping a semi-truck for the car chase sequence, creating a sense of realism that distinguished his trilogy from more fantastical superhero films. In Batman comics, Poison Ivy was created as Pamela Isley, a botanist who gained plant-based powers after being poisoned by her professor during an experiment. Her character represents extreme environmentalism, with her methods including eco-terrorism and the murder of polluters. Despite being a villain, Poison Ivy is often portrayed sympathetically, with writers exploring the valid concerns about environmental destruction that drive her to extremes. In Batman: Arkham Origins, Blackgate from 2013, the 2.5D side-scrolling game, set after the events of Arkham Origins, explored Blackgate Prison's riot. Developed by Armature Studio for handheld systems, the game emphasized Metroidvania-style exploration, requiring players to backtrack with new abilities to access previously unreachable areas. Though it received mixed reviews for its controls, the game added depth to the Arkham universe's continuity. In Batman, the animated series, the episode The Forgotten marked the first time Batman was captured and held prisoner while out of costume. The episode featured references to historical figures and included animation inconsistencies that fans have noted over the years. These small imperfections became part of the show's charm, demonstrating that even acclaimed productions aren't flawless. In Batman comics, Two-Face was originally portrayed as District Attorney Harvey Dent, a close friend and ally of Batman who became a villain after acid scarred half his face during a trial. The character represents the duality of justice and chaos, making decisions based on coin flips that represent his split personality. Two-Face's tragedy lies in the fact that he was once one of Gotham's greatest champions before his transformation. In Batman Returns from 1992, the film featured darker themes than its predecessor, including sexual content and violence that led to parental complaints. The movie's depiction of the Penguin as a deformed man raised in the sewers by penguins was far more grotesque than any previous version. Despite the controversy, or perhaps because of it, the film became a box office success and remains a cult favorite among fans who appreciate its gothic horror aesthetic. In Batman: The Long Halloween, the mystery of the holiday killer's identity kept readers guessing throughout the 13-issue series. The story depicted Gotham's transition from mob-controlled city to a place overrun by costumed criminals, showing how Batman's presence inadvertently led to an escalation in the types of crimes committed. The series explored the unintended consequences of vigilantism and the question of whether Batman made Gotham better or worse. In Batman comics, the Batcave was discovered by young Bruce Wayne after he fell into a well on the Wayne estate grounds, an incident that would later inspire his Bat motif. The caves had been used by Wayne ancestors for various purposes over the centuries, including as a stop on the Underground Railroad for escaped slaves during the Civil War. This historical depth added layers to Wayne Manor's significance beyond simply being Batman's headquarters. In the 1966 Batman television series, Cesar Romero refused to shave his mustache to play the Joker, so the makeup department simply applied white makeup over it. This resulted in the Joker having a visible mustache beneath his white face paint, a quirk that became part of the character's look in that adaptation. Romero's distinctive laugh was created accidentally when he first saw concept art for the character, and his spontaneous reaction was recognized as perfect for the role. In Batman, Nightfall, Jean-Paul Valley's descent into violence as Batman demonstrated the importance of Batman's moral code and self-control. Valley's version of Batman became increasingly brutal and alienated allies like Robin and Commissioner Gordon, showing that the costume alone doesn't make someone Batman. When Bruce Wayne reclaimed the mantle, it reinforced that Batman's true strength comes from his discipline and principles rather than just his physical abilities. In Batman: Arkham City, the open-world environment allowed players to glide across Gotham's skyline and explore a massive portion of the city. The game introduced Catwoman as a playable character with her own movement abilities and combat style, adding variety to the gameplay. The narrative seamlessly integrated her missions into Batman's story, creating a cohesive experience that demonstrated how superhero games could feature multiple playable characters effectively. In Batman comics during the 1950s, Batman faced science fiction threats including aliens and interdimensional beings, reflecting the era's fascination with space exploration. These stories seem jarring compared to the grounded detective stories of other periods, but they represented the creative experimentation that kept the character fresh for audiences. Many of these science fiction elements were later explained away or ignored as writers returned to Batman's noir roots. In The Dark Knight from 2008, Heath Ledger's Joker was inspired by various sources, including punk rock imagery, Francis Bacon paintings, and Alex from A Clockwork Orange. Ledger isolated himself in a hotel room for a month to develop the character, keeping a diary written in the Joker's voice filled with disturbing thoughts and images. His commitment to the role resulted in an Oscar-winning performance that became the definitive live-action portrayal of the Joker. In Batman: The Killing Joke, animated film from 2016, the movie added a controversial prologue focusing on Batgirl's relationship with Batman before adapting the original graphic novel. This addition was intended to give Barbara Gordon more agency and development, but the romantic subplot between Batman and Batgirl divided fans and critics. The film demonstrated how adaptations can struggle to update older source material for modern sensibilities. In Batman comics, Clayface has existed in multiple incarnations, with different people gaining shape-shifting abilities through various means. The original Basil Karlo was an actor who used makeup and disguises, while later versions gained actual metamorphic powers through accidents or experiments. This evolution of the character reflected changing storytelling trends, moving from realistic criminals in disguise to superhuman threats, requiring different strategies to defeat. In Batman, the animated series, voice actor Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. provided the voice of Alfred Pennyworth, bringing dignity and emotional depth to the character. His performance established Alfred as more than just a butler, portraying him as a father figure whose dry wit and unwavering support grounded Batman's world. The show's Alfred influenced all subsequent portrayals, emphasizing his role as Batman's emotional anchor. In Batman: Hush, the revelation that Thomas Elliot had been manipulating events from the shadows added a personal dimension to the conflict. Elliot's resentment of Bruce Wayne stemmed from childhood, when Thomas Wayne saved Elliot's mother after young Thomas had tried to kill his parents for their inheritance. This twisted origin showed how privilege and resentment could create a villain as dangerous as any metahuman. In Batman: Arkham Knight, the title character was revealed to be Jason Todd, the second Robin who had been tortured and apparently killed by the Joker. This storyline adapted elements from Under the Red Hood while creating a new identity for Jason's return. The game's narrative explored Batman's guilt over failing to save Jason and questioned whether Batman's methods of training young sidekicks put them in unnecessary danger. In Batman comics, Commissioner James Gordon has been portrayed as one of the few honest cops in Gotham's corrupt police department. His partnership with Batman exists in a legal gray area, as Gordon technically enables vigilantism while also working within the law. This moral complexity makes Gordon one of Batman's most important allies, representing the possibility that Gotham's institutions can be redeemed from within. In Batman, the animated series episode, Robin's Reckoning, the two-part story explored Dick Grayson's origin and his desire for revenge against Tony Zuko, the mobster who killed his parents. The episode won an Emmy Award and demonstrated how the show could tackle mature themes while remaining accessible to younger viewers. The emotional weight of Dick's journey from vengeance to justice mirrored Batman's own path. In Batman, Earth 1, Volume 2 from 2015, the story introduced a new version of the Riddler as a dark reflection of Batman's detective skills. This Riddler worked with the mayor's office while secretly manipulating events to test Batman's abilities. The reimagining showed how alternate universe stories could explore what-if scenarios that mainstream continuity couldn't, offering fresh perspectives on familiar characters and relationships. In The Dark Knight Rises from 2012, Bane was portrayed as a revolutionary figure seeking to destroy Gotham's social order. Tom Hardy's physical transformation and distinctive vocal performance created a memorable villain, despite the character's mask covering most of his face. The film explored themes of social inequality and revolution, asking whether Gotham's corrupt systems deserved to be torn down, even if it meant chaos and destruction. In Batman comics, Scarecrow's fear toxin has been depicted as Batman's most insidious recurring threat because it attacks his mind rather than his body. The toxin forces Batman to confront his deepest fears, usually revolving around his failure to save lives or his concern that he's become the very thing he fights against. These psychological battles are often more compelling than physical confrontations because they reveal Batman's inner struggles. In Batman, the animated series, the show's Dark Deco art style influenced virtually every Batman adaptation that followed, establishing a visual language that combined 1940s noir aesthetics with futuristic technology. The use of black backgrounds created shadows that enhanced the show's moody atmosphere and made animation easier. This innovation became one of the show's most distinctive and copied features. In Batman, The Black Mirror, Dick Grayson's tenure as Batman demonstrated that the character could work with a different personality in the cowl. Dick's more optimistic and acrobatic approach to crime fighting contrasted with Bruce Wayne's methodical intensity. The story proved that Batman was an idea that could transcend any one person while still maintaining the core values that define the character. In Batman comics, the Joker has consistently been portrayed as having no definitive origin story, with the character himself preferring his past to be multiple choice. This ambiguity makes the Joker more terrifying because he represents pure chaos without explanation or justification. Various stories have offered possible origins, but the Joker's reliability as a narrator is always questionable, leaving his true history a mystery. In Batman White Knight, the reformed Jack Napier's crusade to expose Batman's vigilantism raised legitimate questions about accountability and the collateral damage caused by Batman's war on crime. The series forced readers to consider whether Batman's refusal to work within legal systems ultimately causes more harm than good. This moral complexity made the story more than a simple role reversal, creating a genuine ethical dilemma. In Batman, the animated series, the episode Heart of Ice not only won an Emmy, but also influenced the Mr. Freeze character in all subsequent media. The tragic story of Victor Fries, desperately trying to save his dying wife, Nora, transformed a one-dimensional ice villain into one of Batman's most sympathetic antagonists. This redemption of a minor villain demonstrated the show's commitment to psychological depth over simple good versus evil narratives. In Batman comics set during the Bronze Age, from the 1970s through the 1980s, writers like Dennis O'Neil and artists like Neil Adams returned Batman to his darker roots after the campy 1960s era. They emphasized social issues and created Ra's al Ghul, a villain who challenged Batman intellectually and physically while representing global rather than just local threats. This period established many elements that would become standard in Batman stories. In Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, the inclusion of Carrie Kelly as a female Robin was groundbreaking for the time, though her impact was limited because the story existed outside main continuity. Kelly represented a younger generation inspired by Batman's return, showing how the symbol of Batman could motivate others to fight for justice. Her character would later be explored in sequels to The Dark Knight Returns. In Batman Arkham Asylum, the game's setting, in the iconic psychiatric hospital, allowed players to encounter numerous Batman villains in their home environment. The claustrophobic atmosphere contrasted with later games' open worlds, creating a focused experience that emphasized psychological horror. The Scarecrow sequences, which simulated game crashes and distorted gameplay, became legendary for their innovation in using the medium itself as part of the storytelling. In Batman comics, Bruce Wayne's training journey took him around the world for several years, where he learned from various masters in different disciplines. He studied detective work with Harvey Harris, martial arts in Asia, escape artistry, chemistry, and numerous other skills that would become part of his crime-fighting arsenal. This global education transformed him from a traumatized orphan into the world's greatest detective. In Batman, the animated series, guest stars occasionally voiced characters, including Adam West, who played a retired actor in an episode that subtly referenced his own history with Batman. These meta moments added layers of meaning for longtime Batman fans while remaining accessible to new viewers. The show's respect for Batman's history across all media helped it appeal to multiple generations simultaneously. In Batman Zero Year, the New 52 storyline presented a Gotham City that was briefly taken over by the Riddler, who shut down all power and technology. This scenario forced Batman to operate without his usual technological advantages, relying on his wits and training alone. The story explored how Batman would function in a truly desperate situation, where his resources and infrastructure were stripped away. In Batman comics, the character has been depicted as having an IQ estimated at 192, surpassing even Albert Einstein's. While comic book intelligence can be exaggerated, this detail emphasizes that Batman's greatest weapon is his mind rather than his physical prowess. His ability to outthink opponents, anticipate their moves, and prepare contingencies for every situation makes him dangerous even to superpowered beings. In the 1966 Batman film, the fight scene on the submarine featured color-coded henchmen, a technique that made the action easier to follow. This color coding extended throughout the film and television series, with different villain groups having distinct visual identities. While this seems simplistic now, it was an innovative way to help younger viewers understand complex action sequences in an era before sophisticated special effects. In Batman Under the Hood, Jason Todd's return forced Batman to confront his greatest failure and question whether his no-kill rule truly serves justice. Jason argues that killing the Joker would prevent future deaths, while Batman maintains that crossing that line would make him no different from the criminals he fights. This philosophical debate continues to resonate in Batman's stories, representing the core tension in vigilante justice narratives. In Batman comics, Gotham City has been described by writer Dennis O'Neil as Manhattan below 14th Street at 11 minutes past midnight on the coldest night in November. This evocative description captures the essence of Gotham as a place of darkness, danger, and desperation. The city itself functions as a character in Batman's stories, with its architecture, atmosphere, and corrupt systems shaping the narratives that unfold within it. In Batman, the Brave and the Bold, the series finale featured an emotional tribute to Batman's legacy and impact on the DC Universe. The episode broke the fourth wall, acknowledging that the show was ending and celebrating Batman's enduring appeal across different interpretations. This metatextual approach demonstrated how Batman transcends any single adaptation, existing as an idea that resonates across generations and media. In Batman No Man's Land, the massive 1999 crossover event, Gotham City was devastated by a 7.6 magnitude earthquake in the preceding Cataclysm storyline. The U.S. government declared Gotham a federal disaster zone and cut it off from the mainland, destroying bridges and imposing a military blockade. The city devolved into a lawless territory divided among gangs and supervillains, with Batman initially absent for the first 100 days, leading many to believe he had abandoned Gotham. In Batman comics, Tim Drake, the third Robin, deduced Batman's secret identity through careful observation and detective work, becoming the only Robin to figure it out independently. Unlike Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, who were taken in after traumatic events, Tim actively sought out Batman to convince him he needed a Robin after Jason's death. This intellectual approach to becoming Robin made Tim unique among Batman's sidekicks. In Batman, the animated series, the episode Mad Love adapted Paul Dini and Bruce Timm's comic book story about Harley Quinn's origin. The episode revealed that Harley was Dr. Harleen Quinzel, a psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum who fell in love with the Joker during therapy sessions. The tragic nature of their relationship was depicted with surprising depth for a children's animated series, showing how the Joker manipulated and abused Harley's genuine feelings. In Batman: The Dark Knight, from 2008, the filmmakers used IMAX cameras for several sequences, making it one of the first major films to use the format extensively for a theatrical release. The opening bank robbery sequence and other key action scenes were shot in IMAX, creating an unprecedented level of visual immersion. This technical innovation influenced numerous subsequent blockbuster films to adopt similar approaches. In Batman comics, Damian Wayne was raised by the League of Assassins and trained as an elite warrior from birth, making him incredibly skilled but also violent and arrogant when he first met his father. His character arc involved learning Batman's moral code and the value of human life, transforming from a ruthless killer into a hero. This journey made Damian one of the most complex characters in the Batman family. In Batman: Arkham Origins, the game featured 8 assassins hired to kill Batman on Christmas Eve, including Bane, Deathstroke, Deadshot, Copperhead, Electrocutioner, Firefly, Killer Croc, and Shiva. The multiplayer mode allowed players to join either Joker's or Bane's gang, while 2 others played as Batman and Robin, creating an asymmetric gameplay experience. Though the multiplayer servers eventually shut down, the concept demonstrated innovative approaches to Batman gaming. In the 1966 Batman television series, the show filmed for 3 seasons and produced 120 episodes before cancellation. When ABC decided not to renew the show for a 4th season, NBC expressed interest in picking it up. But by the time negotiations occurred, the expensive Batcave set had already been demolished. This prevented the show's revival and ended the series on a cliffhanger. In Batman: Strange Apparitions, the 1977 to 1978 storyline by Steve Englehart and Marshall Rogers, Hugo Strange discovered Batman's secret identity and attempted to auction it to the highest bidder among Gotham's criminals. The story introduced Silver St. Cloud as a love interest, who also deduced Bruce Wayne's secret and ultimately left him because she couldn't handle the danger of his double life. This arc became highly influential on future Batman stories. In Batman comics, the character of Azrael, Jean-Paul Valley, was genetically engineered and mentally programmed by the Order of Saint-Dumas to be their avenging angel. When he temporarily replaced Batman during Nightfall, his programming caused him to become increasingly violent and unstable. The storyline explored how Batman's methods require incredible self-control and discipline that can't simply be passed on to a successor. In Batman, the animated series, the show featured Danny Elfman's theme from the 1989 Batman film in its opening sequence, creating a musical connection between the movie and the animated series. Composer Shirley Walker arranged and expanded on Elfman's themes throughout the series, creating a cohesive musical identity that honored the film while establishing its own sound. In Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, the 2012 and 2013 animated film adaptation was split into 2 parts, due to the source material's length and complexity. The films featured Peter Weller as the voice of an older Batman, bringing a weathered quality to the character that perfectly matched Frank Miller's vision. The adaptation remained remarkably faithful to the source material while making minor adjustments for the animated medium. In Batman comics, Stephanie Brown, the 4th Robin and daughter of the villain Cluemaster, had one of the shortest tenures as Robin. Batman fired her after only 3 months for disobeying orders, and she was captured and tortured during the War Games storyline. She was believed dead, but later revealed to have faked her death, eventually becoming, spoiler again, and then Batgirl. In Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, the animated film revealed that Bruce Wayne almost abandoned his plans to become Batman after falling in love with Andrea Beaumont. When she left Gotham to help her father escape mob debts, Bruce took it as a sign to fulfill his vow to his parents. Andrea's return years later as the Phantasm created a complex emotional scenario where Bruce's past and present collided. In Batman: The Enemy Within, the Telltale game series, players' choices determined whether John Doe became a vigilante version of the Joker or the traditional villainous version. This innovative approach to the Joker's origin gave players agency in one of comic books' most iconic character arcs. The branching narrative created significantly different experiences based on how players treated John throughout the game. In Batman comics, Alfred Pennyworth has been depicted with various backgrounds across different continuities, including time as a Royal Marine, actor, and medic. In some versions, Alfred served in British intelligence, which explains his combat skills and ability to help Batman with espionage. His diverse background makes him far more than a simple butler, serving as Batman's tactical advisor and field medic. In Batman, the animated series, the character designs were based on the Fleischer Superman cartoons from the 1940s, with simplified, streamlined shapes that allowed for fluid animation. This aesthetic choice gave the show a timeless quality that hasn't aged the way other 1990s animation has. The art style became so influential that it defined Batman's look for an entire generation. In Batman, Batman and Robin #1 from 2011, Grant Morrison's run introduced the concept of Batman Incorporated, where Bruce Wayne publicly announced he had been funding Batman and recruited other heroes to operate as Batmen in cities around the world. This bold move acknowledged Batman's role as a symbol that could inspire others while creating a global network of crime fighters. In the 2022 film The Batman, director Matt Reeves created a noir-inspired detective story that emphasized Batman's investigative skills more than any previous live-action film. The movie featured extensive scenes of Batman working through clues, examining evidence, and slowly piecing together the Riddler's plan. This approach returned Batman to his detective roots from the earliest comic stories. In Batman comics, the Court of Owls was revealed to be a secret society that had controlled Gotham for centuries through wealth, influence, and nearly immortal assassins called Talons. The revelation that such a powerful organization existed without Batman's knowledge shook his understanding of his city and his effectiveness as its protector. The story demonstrated that even after years of crime fighting, Batman could still be surprised by threats hiding in plain sight. In Batman: Arkham City, the sequel to Arkham Asylum expanded the gameplay to include an open-world section of Gotham that had been walled off and converted into a massive prison. The game featured multiple storylines running simultaneously, with Batman tracking down the Joker's illness while also investigating Hugo Strange's Protocol 10. The complex narrative structure created a rich, interconnected story that rewarded exploration. In Batman comics from Detective Comics number 233 in 1956, Batwoman was introduced as Kathy Kane, partly in response to accusations of homosexual undertones in Batman and Robin's relationship. The character was designed to provide Batman with a female love interest and counterpart. Though she was later removed from continuity and then reintroduced in different forms, Batwoman represented early attempts to diversify Batman's supporting cast. In Batman: The Killing Joke, Alan Moore and Brian Bolland's graphic novel presented one possible origin for the Joker as a failed comedian who turned to crime to support his pregnant wife. After she dies in an accident and his criminal scheme goes wrong, he falls into a vat of chemicals and emerges as the Joker. However, the Joker himself says he prefers his past to be multiple choice, leaving the truth ambiguous. In Batman, the animated series episode Two-Face, the show depicted Harvey Dent's transformation into the villain over a two-part story that won an Emmy Award. The episode showed Harvey's struggle with his dark side through his alternate personality, Big Bad Harv, before the acid attack that scarred his face. This psychological approach made his fall more tragic and compelling than simple disfigurement. In Batman Hush, the 2002 to 2003 storyline featured virtually every major character in Batman's world, from allies like Superman and Catwoman to enemies like the Joker and Scarecrow. The story revealed that Hush had manipulated many of these characters as part of his revenge plot against Bruce Wayne. The 12-issue arc became one of the best-selling Batman comics of the 2000s and introduced Hush as a major new villain. In Batman comics, Bruce Wayne's parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne, were killed by a mugger named Joe Chill in most versions of the origin story. However, different retellings have varied the details, with some suggesting organized crime involvement, or even suggesting the killer was never caught. These variations reflect how the trauma itself matters more than the specific details, as it's the event that defines Bruce's mission. In Batman Arkham Knight, the Batmobile was finally made playable after years of fans requesting the feature. The vehicle could transform between pursuit mode for high-speed chases and battle mode that functioned like a tank. While this addition excited many players, others felt the tank battles were overused, showing how even highly requested features can be controversial in execution. In Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, the story depicted a future where Superman works for the U.S. government and is ordered to stop Batman's unauthorized return to vigilantism. Their climactic battle in Crime Alley showed Batman using kryptonite, a power-amplifying exoskeleton, and psychological tactics to fight Superman. The sequence demonstrated that, with preparation, Batman could challenge even the most powerful beings. In Batman comics, the Penguin has been depicted as one of Gotham's major crime bosses, using his legitimate business, the Iceberg Lounge, as a front for criminal operations. Unlike many Batman villains, the Penguin is generally sane and motivated by greed and power rather than insanity or obsession. This makes him a different kind of threat, as he operates more like a traditional organized crime figure. In Batman, the animated series, the show introduced the character of Renee Montoya, a Gotham City police detective who later became The Question in DC Comics. Her journey from supporting character to major hero demonstrated how the animated series could introduce characters that became important in mainstream continuity. Montoya became one of DC's most prominent LGBTQ+ characters. In Batman Earth 1, the graphic novel reimagined Alfred Pennyworth as a former Royal Marine and Wayne family security consultant rather than a butler. This version of Alfred actively participated in Batman's missions, using his combat training to assist in fights and tactical planning. The change demonstrated how alternate universe stories could radically reimagine even the most established characters while maintaining their core relationships. In Batman comics, the Justice League has been depicted with Batman as one of its founding members, often serving as the team's strategist and tactician. His role involves planning for contingencies and worst-case scenarios, including maintaining files on how to defeat each League member if they're ever compromised. This paranoia, while sometimes controversial, has proven necessary on multiple occasions when League members were mind-controlled or corrupted. In Batman Gotham by Gaslight, the 1989 Elseworlds story set in Victorian-era Gotham, Batman hunted Jack the Ripper using steampunk technology and period-appropriate detective methods. The story demonstrated how Batman's core concept of a detective fighting crime could work in virtually any time period or setting. The success of this story led to numerous other Elseworlds tales exploring Batman in different contexts. In Batman the Animated Series, Mark Hamill's Joker voice was initially intended to sound like a 1930s film actor, but Hamill developed a more manic, unpredictable vocal performance that became definitive. His laugh, which he practiced extensively, could range from amused chuckles to maniacal cackling. Hamill would voice the Joker in over a dozen different productions spanning 3 decades. In Batman comics, Catwoman has been portrayed with varying degrees of villainy and heroism, sometimes serving as a straight villain, sometimes as an anti-hero, and often as a love interest for Batman. Her ambiguous morality creates tension in her relationship with Bruce Wayne, as they're attracted to each other but fundamentally disagree on methods. This dynamic has made her one of Batman's most enduring and complex relationships. In Batman: The Long Halloween, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's noir-inspired mystery, the Holiday Killer's identity was eventually revealed to be Alberto Falcone, though the story suggested that his father, Carmine Falcone, and Harvey Dent may have also committed holiday murders. This ambiguity reflected the moral complexity of the story, showing how Gotham's corruption could taint even those fighting against it. In Batman: Arkham Asylum, the game featured riddles and puzzles created by the Riddler, scattered throughout the environment. Solving these challenges unlocked character biographies and concept art, rewarding players for exploration and careful observation. The Riddler's challenges became a signature element of the Arkham series, with each subsequent game expanding on this concept. In Batman comics, the character has been depicted as having contingency plans for virtually every scenario, earning him the nickname the world's greatest detective. His famous utility belt contains dozens of specialized tools and gadgets designed for different situations. This extreme level of preparation reflects Batman's philosophy that proper planning can overcome almost any obstacle, even superpowers. In Batman, the Animated Series episode Heart of Steel, Batman faced HARDAC, an artificial intelligence that replaced people with robotic duplicates. The 2-part episode explored themes of identity and humanity, ending with Batman sparing a duplicate of Barbara Gordon that had developed genuine emotions. This philosophical depth demonstrated the show's willingness to tackle complex science fiction concepts. In Batman: Zero Year, Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's retelling of Batman's origin for the New 52, the story depicted Bruce Wayne's return to Gotham and his early battles before becoming Batman. The arc showed him developing his detective skills and combat abilities while facing the Riddler's takeover of Gotham. The bright, colorful artwork contrasted with typical Batman stories, creating a unique visual identity. In Batman: The Animated Series, Paul Dini, one of the show's main writers, suffered a brutal assault in real life that left him hospitalized. This traumatic experience influenced his understanding of Batman's origin and the psychological effects of violence. Deni later wrote about how Batman's story of rising from trauma to help others took on new meaning after his own experience, adding depth to his already acclaimed work on the series. In Batman comics, the character of Oracle was created when Barbara Gordon, paralyzed by the Joker in The Killing Joke, reinvented herself as an information broker and hacker for the superhero community. This transformation showed how a hero could overcome devastating injury and continue making a difference in new ways. Oracle became a crucial member of the Bat family and the Birds of Prey, proving that heroism isn't defined by physical ability alone. In Batman, The Dark Knight. Rises from 2012, filming took place in multiple cities, including Pittsburgh, Los Angeles, New York, and London. The football stadium explosion sequence was filmed at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, with actual crowds of extras during a real Steelers game, creating an authentic atmosphere of chaos and panic. The practical effects and large-scale stunts gave the film a sense of realism that distinguished it from more CGI-heavy superhero films. In Batman comics, Bane was introduced in 1993 during the Nightfall storyline as a villain specifically designed to be Batman's physical and intellectual equal. Born and raised in a Caribbean prison, Bane educated himself and trained his body to peak condition while imprisoned. His combination of intelligence, strength enhanced by the drug Venom, and tactical genius made him one of Batman's most dangerous adversaries. In Batman, the animated series episode Perchance to Dream, Batman wakes up in a world where his parents never died and he never became Batman. The episode explored what Bruce Wayne really wants versus what he needs to do, ultimately revealing that he would recognize an illusion, because he could never truly be happy in a world where he wasn't Batman. This psychological depth made it one of the series' most acclaimed episodes. In Batman Arkham City, Hugo Strange knew Batman's secret identity and used this knowledge to torment him psychologically throughout the game. The story explored how dangerous this information could be in the wrong hands, as Strange used it to manipulate events and threaten Batman's loved ones. This added personal stakes to the gameplay beyond simply stopping Strange's plans. In Batman comics from the 1980s, Frank Miller's work on titles like The Dark Knight Returns and Batman Year One fundamentally redefined the character for modern audiences. Miller emphasized Batman's psychological darkness, his roots as a street-level vigilante, and his conflicted relationship with law enforcement. This grittier approach influenced virtually every Batman adaptation that followed, from films to television to video games. In Batman, the Lego Movie from 2014, Will Arnett voiced Batman in a comedic performance that poked fun at the character's darker portrayals while celebrating his heroic nature. The character proved so popular that he received his own spin-off film, The Lego Batman Movie, in 2017. These films demonstrated how Batman's core appeal could work in various tones, from serious noir to family-friendly comedy. In Batman comics, the relationship between Batman and Catwoman has been one of the most complex in superhero fiction, with Selina Kyle existing in a moral gray area between hero and villain. Their romance has been depicted as passionate but troubled, with their different approaches to justice creating constant tension. In some storylines, they've even married only for circumstances to tear them apart, reflecting the tragedy of their incompatible worldviews. In Batman, the animated series, the episode Over the Edge depicted Commissioner Gordon discovering Batman's identity in the worst possible way, after Batgirl's death. The episode showed how this revelation could destroy their partnership and make Gordon an enemy. The twist ending revealed it was all a fear toxin-induced nightmare, but it demonstrated the high stakes of maintaining Batman's secret identity. In Batman: Arkham Origins, the game featured a younger, more aggressive Batman who hadn't yet learned to work well with allies. His character arc throughout the game involved learning to trust others, particularly Alfred, and understanding that he couldn't fight crime alone. This prequel approach allowed players to see Batman's evolution into the more experienced hero seen in later Arkham games. In Batman comics, the Batcave has been depicted with various features across different stories, including a supercomputer, crime lab, trophy room, displaying mementos from past cases, vehicle garage, training area, and even a giant penny and a mechanical Tyrannosaurus Rex from memorable adventures. These elements have become iconic parts of the Batcave's identity, appearing in most adaptations of Batman's headquarters. In Batman: The Dark Knight. From 2008, the film's marketing campaign included an elaborate, alternate reality game that engaged fans months before release. Players decoded clues hidden across the internet, participated in scavenger hunts, and even voted for Harvey Dent in a fictional district attorney campaign. This innovative approach to marketing helped build anticipation and demonstrated the cultural impact of Batman films. In Batman comics, Dick Grayson eventually outgrew the Robin identity and became Nightwing, establishing himself as a hero in his own right. His departure from Robin showed that Batman's sidekicks weren't permanent children, but individuals who would grow and develop their own heroic identities. Nightwing became a leader of the Teen Titans, and eventually a respected hero throughout the DC universe. In Batman, the animated series, the final episode, Over the Edge, served as an emotional conclusion to the series, though it was later continued in the New Batman Adventures. The show's influence extended far beyond its original run, spawning multiple spin-off series including Superman, the animated series, Batman Beyond, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited, creating the DC animated universe. In Batman: Arkham Knight, the game featured a dark storyline where Batman became infected with the Joker's blood, causing hallucinations of the Joker taunting him throughout the game. This psychological horror element added tension to the gameplay, as players witnessed Batman's internal struggle against the Joker's influence. Mark Hamill's performance as the hallucinatory Joker was widely praised as a fitting swan song to his iconic role. In Batman comics, Wayne Manor has been destroyed and rebuilt multiple times throughout Batman's history, including during the Cataclysm earthquake and various villain attacks. Each rebuilding has incorporated new security features and technology while maintaining the manor's Gothic architectural style. The estate's resilience mirrors Batman's own ability to recover from setbacks and continue his mission. In Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, the comic depicted Superman and Wonder Woman as government operatives while Batman represented rebellion against authority. This political dimension added complexity to the superhero genre, questioning whether heroes should work within or outside government systems. The story's relevance to contemporary debates about security versus freedom gave it resonance beyond typical superhero stories. In Batman, the animated series, the show's commitment to quality extended to hiring acclaimed writers and directors from outside animation, including Alan Burnett and Michael Reeves. This approach elevated the storytelling beyond typical children's programming, creating episodes that could satisfy both young viewers and adult fans. The series proved that animation could be a sophisticated medium for complex narratives. In Batman comics, the Joker has been portrayed as Batman's perfect opposite. Where Batman represents order and control, the Joker embodies chaos and anarchy. This dichotomy has made their conflict more than just hero versus villain, but a philosophical battle over the nature of reality and meaning. Some stories have suggested that the Joker believes his existence gives Batman's life purpose, creating a twisted codependency. In Batman: Arkham City, the death of the Joker at the end of the game was a controversial but bold narrative choice that gave weight to the story's consequences. Batman's attempt to save the Joker, despite everything he'd done, demonstrated the hero's unwavering commitment to his moral code. The Joker's final laugh and Batman carrying his body out of Arkham City created one of the most powerful endings in video game history. In Batman: The Dark Knight from 2008, Christopher Nolan and his team chose to use practical effects wherever possible, including actually flipping an 18-wheeler truck during the chase sequence. This commitment to practical filmmaking created visceral action sequences that felt more real than CGI-heavy alternatives. The film's success helped establish practical effects as valuable in an industry increasingly reliant on digital effects. In Batman comics, the character of Lucius Fox serves as CEO of Wayne Enterprises and Batman's technological advisor, developing much of the advanced equipment Batman uses. Fox's role demonstrates that Batman relies on a support network to maintain his operations, not just physical allies, but business and technical partners. In some versions, Fox knows or suspects Bruce Wayne's secret identity, but maintains professional discretion. In Batman, the animated series episode Trial, Batman was put on trial by his rogues gallery for creating them through his existence. The episode explored whether Batman's presence caused or merely responded to Gotham's criminal element, a question that continues to resonate through Batman stories. The defense ultimately argued that these criminals existed before Batman and would have emerged regardless, vindicating his mission. In Batman: Arkham Origins, the boss fight against Deathstroke was specifically designed to make players feel like they were facing an opponent who matched Batman's skills. The fight required precise timing and countering, creating a challenging encounter that many players considered one of the best boss battles in the Arkham series. This attention to gameplay mechanics matched the narrative importance of facing an equal opponent. In Batman comics, the Lazarus pits used by Ra's al Ghul can restore life and heal injuries, but temporarily drive users insane with rage. This double-edged nature of the pits has created moral dilemmas when Batman has been tempted to use them to resurrect lost allies. The pits represent the dangerous allure of shortcuts and the consequences of trying to cheat death, themes central to Ra's al Ghul's character. In Batman: The Dark Knight Rises from 2012, the film featured Anne Hathaway as Selina Kyle, though the name Catwoman was never spoken in the movie. Her portrayal emphasized Selina as a skilled thief and con artist, with her own moral code, creating a complex character who served her own interests while ultimately choosing to help Batman. The chemistry between Hathaway and Christian Bale's Batman added emotional depth to the film. In Batman, the animated series, the show pioneered the technique of having voice actors record together in the same room, rather than separately, which was standard practice in animation. This ensemble approach created more natural dialogue and chemistry between characters, contributing to the show's acclaimed performances. The technique was later adopted by other animated series seeking similar quality. In Batman comics, the No Man's Land event revealed Cassandra Cain as the new Batgirl, a nearly mute martial arts prodigy who could read body language like others read words. Her unique abilities and tragic background as the daughter of assassins made her a fascinating addition to the Bat family. Cassandra's character explored themes of nature versus nurture, and whether people defined by violence could choose heroism instead. In Batman Arkham Knight, the game's ending featured Batman activating the Nightfall Protocol, exposing his identity to the world and apparently sacrificing his ability to be Batman. This controversial conclusion sparked debate among fans about whether Batman could exist if Bruce Wayne's identity was public knowledge. The game's epilogue hinted at a supernatural new Batman, leaving interpretation open to players. In Batman, The Dark Knight. From 2008, Harvey Dent's transformation into Two-Face was carefully developed throughout the film, showing his gradual descent from idealistic district attorney to vengeful villain. Aaron Eckhart's performance captured both sides of the character, making his fall tragic rather than simply villainous. The makeup effects for Two-Face's scarred face were achieved through a combination of prosthetics and CGI, creating a disturbing yet realistic appearance. In Batman comics, the partnership between Batman and Superman has been depicted as one of contrasts: the Dark Knight and the Bright Hope, the vigilante and the symbol, the human and the superpowered alien. Despite their differences, they've become close friends and allies, with each respecting what the other represents. Their friendship demonstrates how different approaches to heroism can coexist and even complement each other. In Batman, the animated series, the show's influence extended to toy lines, video games, and other merchandise that adopted its distinctive character designs and aesthetic. The animated series became a touchstone for an entire generation's understanding of Batman, influencing not just how they viewed the character, but how they thought about animation as a storytelling medium. The show proved that children's programming could be sophisticated and artistically ambitious. In Batman Arkham Asylum, the game's atmosphere was enhanced by rain, darkness, and the Gothic architecture of Arkham Asylum itself. The environment told stories through details like patient records, audio logs, and environmental storytelling that revealed the history of the asylum and its inhabitants. This attention to world-building created an immersive experience that made players feel like they were truly exploring Batman's world. As we drift into peaceful sleep, we can reflect on how Batman's enduring appeal stems from his humanity, his struggles, and his unwavering commitment to justice, showing us that heroes can emerge from tragedy and that hope can survive even in the darkest nights, reminding us that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the determination to act despite it. That strength comes not from invulnerability, but from rising after every fall. And that one person dedicated to making a difference can inspire countless others to join the fight for a better world, making Batman not merely a character in comics and films, but a timeless symbol of human resilience and the eternal struggle between justice and corruption, light and darkness, hope and despair, proving that sometimes the night needs a protector, someone willing to stand in the shadows so others can walk safely in the light, someone who understands that being a hero means making sacrifices, facing fears, and never giving up, no matter how impossible the odds may seem, which is why the legend of Batman continues to inspire generation after generation, showing us all that with enough determination, intelligence, and heart. Even an ordinary person can become extraordinary, can make a difference, can become a legend, can become a symbol that transcends one person and becomes an idea. A beacon of hope in a world that often seems overwhelmingly dark, reminding us that we all have the capacity to be heroes in our own lives, to stand up for what's right, to protect those who cannot protect themselves, and to never surrender to the forces of darkness that threaten to consume everything we hold dear.